Mary mix. That one was developed over at Nong Bistro in St. Paul. I was sitting over a bowl of pho, trying to think of more fun and different and unique ideas for Bloody Marys, and it just was natural. Like it's got great. We got a bunch of Thai basil in there, so we have that pho soup broth base, which is like cinnamon, Chinese 5-spice, a little cardamom, ginger, some lime, some lemongrass. That one's got a lot of savory notes. Matches really well with tequilas or bourbons. Yeah, it's really a nice savory. Even it's pushing that edge of just being a savory cocktail on its own, not even necessarily a Bloody Mary, but it is tomato juice based.
All right, Charles. So let's talk about some of these products you brought here. What is this one?
So that is my Thai basil Bloody Mary mix. That one was developed over at Nong Bistro in St. Paul. I was sitting over a bowl of pho, trying to think of more fun and different and unique ideas for Bloody Marys, and it just was natural. Like it's got great. We got a bunch of Thai basil in there, so we have that pho soup broth base, which is like cinnamon, Chinese 5-spice, a little cardamom, ginger, some lime, some lemongrass. That one's got a lot of savory notes. Matches really well with tequilas or bourbons. Yeah, it's really a nice savory. Even it's pushing that edge of just being a savory cocktail on its own, not even necessarily a Bloody Mary, but it is tomato juice based.
All right, Charles. So let's talk about some of these products you brought here. What is this one?
So that is my Thai basil Bloody Mary mix. That one was developed over at Nong Bistro in St. Paul. I was sitting over a bowl of pho, trying to think of more fun and different and unique ideas for Bloody Marys, and it just was natural. Like it's got great. We got a bunch of Thai basil in there, so we have that pho soup broth base, which is like cinnamon, Chinese 5-spice, a little cardamom, ginger, some lime, some lemongrass. That one's got a lot of savory notes. Matches really well with tequilas or bourbons. Yeah, it's really a nice savory. Even it's pushing that edge of just being a savory cocktail on its own, not even necessarily a Bloody Mary, but it is tomato juice based.
All right, Charles. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Black and Rich Podcast with your host, Rich Berkley. This podcast is designed for Black entrepreneurs and business owners to learn how to get in business, stay in business, and pass on generational wealth. 33% of Black men have a felony on their record. So this week we have Kennis Littleton and Chris Bellinger to show how you're able to start your business and grow your business even with a felony on your record. Kennis opened up a bike/coffee shop. Chris Bellinger has a nonprofit that helps people who are homeless and on the street able to survive and get food. I hope you enjoy this episode, and thank you. All right, so Kennis, how did you get involved with Venture North?
I got involved in Venture North by a mentor of mine named Kevin Saunders, who's on the board of RCFL, which is Redeemer Center for Life. Earlier this year in February, he basically came to me and presented an opportunity. And he said, that I could potentially take over a bike shop in North Minneapolis that they were going to divest themselves of. And me, being from North Minneapolis, I took a look at the space and realized that it made sense.
Wow. Yeah. That's a big jump. So how did everything work? When did he come to you, or when did you make the decision? When did it happen?
So the backstory on that is a little bit deeper. So I met Kevin Saunders through a program that he was with called Upwork. Okay. And Upwork provides mentors, whether it's business, just basically men's mentorship. And so he was my mentor through Upwork. And so part of his transition from Upwork was to RCFL. And when he became a board member of RCFL, that first board member meeting was about the divestment of Venture North. So that's how it was kind of brought to me, because during that divestment meeting, they wanted to knock that building down and build another, multifamily high rise over there. And he said, well, if I can find somebody who could be in a position to purchase Venture North and keep it the way that it is, with the same mission, the same vision that it's had over the last 10 years, would you consider that? And so my name got brought up in that conversation as somebody who could do that. And and we're here now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So when you first took it over, what was step one? You got the building.
Yeah.
What was your first hurdle? Like, how'd you make it happen?
Well, that's the crazy part, because I'm not a coffee industry guy, and I'm not a bicycle industry guy, right? So I never was a mechanic in a bike shop, never was a barista or anything like that. But I come to realize that I'm a community person, right? I love the community. I have a major heart for the people in that community. And so the first step was just figuring out really the brass tacks of the business, right? Which is the inventory, the sales. Venture North is a bike shop that relies on bicycle donations being brought in. We refurbish those donations and then sell them back to the community at steeply discounted prices. And so there's a lot of brass tacks on paper how this company is ran. And so that was my first task, was figuring out, okay, what are all of the different elements of this business, and how can I use my past experience to relate to that?
No, I definitely get that. I work with a lot of business owners, and you want to run to get that LLC, you want to run to get whatever it is, and then you get there and it's just oh, yeah, what's next?
Yeah.
How do I get people to get into this doors? How do I balance my budget? How do I grow? Things like that. People don't think about the little details.
Exactly.
Did you have people that come in and help you, or how did that work for you?
So the beautiful thing about Venture North is that it was founded in 2011. So it already had, 10 years of brand recognition, community awareness, all of these different things. At one point, I think there was over 30 volunteers that were in that space volunteering and just doing all these different things. And so that's one of the struggles that I think all businesses are going through right now, is getting employees and employee retention, and especially nonprofits with volunteers and stuff like that. And so that's something that's ongoing and continuing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
You talk about a lot of the community work.
Yeah.
What is that work that Venture North does? What is
so,
because I know it wasn't a nonprofit before.
So no,
it wasn't.
It was never a nonprofit.
Okay.
It was started by Redeemer Center for Life, which is a sister organization to Redeemer Lutheran Church. And so Venture North was under the umbrella or under the fiscal sponsorship of RCFL.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Good. So you said they fix up the bikes.
Yeah.
And you use high school kids for that, don't you? Or how's that work?
So right now we are an LLC. We're seeking our own fiscal sponsor. We're no longer tied to RCFL in any way. There's a couple of different other organizations that are kind of positioning themselves to give the best proposal to be our fiscal agent, because we have already qualified in the past for lots of grants and different things like that. So it's in their benefit to do that. We're considering creating our own nonprofit right now, so that way we can kind of handle all those things in-house. But that goes into the business structure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get at is actually, what is the mission of Venture North currently?
So the mission of Venture North is to provide quality refurbished bicycles to the community, programming for the youth, and open shops for adults. So in short, what we're trying to do is we're trying to reestablish and re-implement all of the programming that Venture North already had previously, without the foundation that it had, which was our CFL.
Yeah.
So, all of this has been happening in a real short period of time. I mean, I just took over in March of this year. And so it's been, April is the beginning of the bike season. Everything happens really quickly. Now I'm in a position to try to, build those foundational pieces to be able to have a Build a Bike program for youth, which is one of, our key programs. 10 to 14-year-olds will come into our space. They'll be able to, it's a 6-week program, 1 2-hour class a week. They'll be given a bicycle frame. They'll be shown how to build their own bike, and then they'll get to keep the bike at the end of the program.
Wow.
So that's
how much would that cost?
That's going to be free to the youth.
Completely free.
Completely free.
Okay.
But in order to do that, we have to have kind of our ducks in a row to be able to go after funding to do those type of things.
Yeah.
So, and then we're going to be implementing an open shop program, which is where it'll start off as 1 day a week. It'll move into 2 days a week, where, any adult or youth 16 and up will be able to bring their bike in. They'll be able to use our tools and equipment under the supervision of one of our techs, and they'll be able to learn how to work on their bikes themselves. It's kind of like the each one teach one type of a mentality.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I think everyone I brought on and will continue to bring on is people who not only are doing business, but are doing things back for the community.
That's what it's supposed to be.
You see too many people make all this money and do all this stuff, and they go live somewhere else. Exactly. They take all that and they leave the community. For me, I don't respect it. It's obviously you want to go live somewhere else, but you got to invest back where you're from.
Come on now.
Yeah. So talk about your upbringing a little bit. I know you had some challenges.
Yeah.
Just kind of talk on that. How you worked your way up to be a business owner.
Yeah. I used to be broken, man. I used to be a broken cat, right? Grew up on the 2900 block of Emerson Avenue North. When when I was 10 years old, my parents moved across the bridge to Northeast. My mom is Polish Norwegian. My dad is African American from Southern Arkansas. And, my dad used to sell drugs. It was the early 80s, crack epidemic, all that stuff. My dad went to prison when I was 12 years old for possession of cocaine. He was locked up for 14 years. So from the time that I was 12 until the time that I was 26, he was gone, and that's kind of when a young boy is really learning about what being a man is supposed to be all about, right? And so there was a lot of womanizing in the household, a lot of domestic violence. And so that's kind of what I knew. I picked up where he left off. I started selling little nickel and dime bags of weed when I was a little kid and 12 years old, just trying to, figure out how to bring money into the household now that, dad was gone. When I was 34, I'm 39 now. When I was 34, my daughter was born. And when my daughter was born, it was a life-changing moment. It was one of those pivotal moments. And I just remember, sobbing and crying and just wondering, why me? Why am I blessed with this baby? Why am I given this gift? And just felt unworthy of all of that. And my life changed. I made a conscious decision to change my life. And I ended up in Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge in their long-term program.
Wow. So this was at 34?
This was at 34. This was 2000.
Only 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yep. So spent a year in their long-term program. It was the best year of my life. I can't understate that anymore. It was a chance for me to really reflect on myself, who I was, and who I wanted to be, right? Which was the complete opposite of who I was or who I thought that I was. And a major part of that was my identity in who I used to be and my identity in who I am now, right? And so, so in Teen Challenge, learning about my identity, right? My belief in Jesus Christ and me being born again. I decided that I was going to shake everybody's hand that came through that program. So like, that was my main thing, right? It was like, if you came into the program and you were a guest speaker, you were a community person, Teen Challenge has a lot of support in the community from business owners and doctors and lawyers and judges and politicians and just all of these different people. I shook all their hands, right? I looked them in the eyes, which is stuff that I wasn't able to do before, right? Because before I did not have a high self-esteem of being like the type of person who could own a business, who could, publicly speak, who could be on a podcast, who could do all of these different things. And so part of that spirit change, that inner change in myself was I'm gonna have the courage to do all of those things that I never thought that I could do or that I didn't think that I was worthy of. And so a lot of those people's hands that I shook were, people of influence and people who had the ways and the means of being able to help somebody like me go to the next level. And one of those people was Kevin Saunders. And so it's just full circle, man.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just full circle.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah.
I mean, in 5 years to go from being in a treatment program to owning a business.
Going from being a mess, bro.
Like...
Yes, facts.
But here's the thing, right? Like, I truly believe in my heart, right, that there's so many people out here who have this in them, right? They have it in them, man. And they just got to come to a place in their heart where they believe that, right?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think that you started this at 34.
Yeah.
Imagine if you would have started this at 22.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many people who were given the opportunity would do so much.
Yeah.
But I was the same way. My dad, at age 11, committed a felony. I haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
So when you're that young, you don't get those fundamentals.
Yeah.
And it just sets you off to a path like that. And then it feels like you can never get back, right?
That's right.
Oh, I've already done this. I've done this. There's nothing I can do. But you made that change. You made it one day. Bam, you made the decision. 5 years from that now, you have your own business and doing all this.
That's right.
Right? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Wow. So, Chris, what has your involvement been in Venture North?
So with Venture North, so my name is Pastor Chris Bellinger. I have a nonprofit ministry, street work, called Unite Twin Cities. And essentially what Kennis was talking about is helping people find purpose. Purpose is original intent, why somebody's created. And when you don't have that, well, there's this quote by this pastor named Dr. Miles Monroe. He had the largest ministry in the Bahamas. And he said, the most tragic thing in life is not death. The most tragic thing is life without purpose. So it's better to be dead and not know life than it is to be alive and not know your purpose.
Yeah.
And I just take a very big heart to that. I have the very similar story to Kennis. Grew up north side, south side. My mom was half native from White Earth Reservation. My mom was a drug addict, alcoholic. My stepdad was a pimp from the 70s. So essentially in the home, you learn everything, what not to do to be successful. And for me, it was a similar story where I was 27. I was living on 26 in DuPont, and used to have after parties. Used to go to 4th Street, 200, Gabby's. All the bars and clubs in Minneapolis. Smoke weed every day, smoke cigarettes, club 5 days a week. And my brother and I used to have a home on 26 in DuPont where we had after parties. We would bring strippers back from Augie's and have parties. And then, long story to get to the point of Venture North, but essentially I ended up getting saved. I never went to church, didn't know a scripture, never read the Bible. I was trying to get back my baby mom. And we were broken up for 2 years. She's from Liberia. And
I'm from Liberia.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, LIBU. That's all my people. Atabagi. But I've been in the community now for over 20 years. But so my wife at the time, her uncle moved from Monrovia, Liberia, and started a church in Crystal, Pentecostal, high level, casting demons out type ministry. And she came home one day and said, we either get married or we can't be together no more. And so we broke up for 2 years. So,
Wow.
yeah, man. I was like, all right, two to the side. Because I was clubbing every day, 5 days a week. Some nights I don't come home. You know, she's taking care of the kid. We had a 3-year-old at the time, Chris Jr. And she came home, said that. So we broke up for 2 years. And then one day I was walking, like literally I was walking to, again, didn't go to church, never read the Bible. I'm clubbing. I'm living that life. I was walking to the store to get a blunt wrap to smoke a blunt. And I know now that the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, I could be over here helping to raise my son, but I'm over here doing something different. So I've been in sales my whole life, called her up and asked her to be, if we can get back together. And she said no, because of all the, we've been together since 18, 19. I was 25 at this time.
You said 18, 19.
Yeah. Well, it was 18 and I was 19. Yeah, since 18, no, we was together for a long, but we were together for a long, we were together since we were kids. So I brought her through a lot of trauma and drama and a lot of dirt and a lot of pain. And she didn't want to come get back together. But again, I've been in sales my whole life, so I don't take no for an answer. It took me 9 months to get her back.
Wow.
But in that process, the only way I could hang out with her is if I went to church with her. So she would come pick me up at like 8 a.m. And bring me to church. It's Liberian church, all African people. I'm like, I don't understand. They speak in English.
Yeah.
But I don't understand this dude, heavy accent, like what y'all talking about.
It's not English.
I don't know what they talking about. Talking about all the time. Where the SpaghettiOs at? But going to a church, people getting cast, demons getting cast out, people doing all this extra speaking in tongues and stuff. Again, I didn't even grow up in that. And but the only way I could hang out with her if I went to church with her. So she'll come pick me up at 8 a.m. and bring me to church. I'm still up from clubbing all night, having after parties.
Wow.
Them churches don't end until 6 a.m.
They 5-hour services. You know what I mean? So I ended up going to church with her, going to sleep, get there and go to sleep. You know what I mean? And then like a month passed, I went to a Bible study with her. And at that Bible study, the pastor asked, does anybody want prayer? I'm like, I'll take some prayer. One thing I did know is I wanted change, because he was trying to fill a void that I had that I couldn't, no matter what I did through drugs, alcohol, women, no matter how much excitement of clubbing felt, I couldn't feel this void. And then I said, I'll take prayer because I want to change. I went up for prayer, and on my way up, the pastor's like, somebody's going to speak in tongues today. Keep in mind, I didn't grow up like this. Then it's not something I yearned for, I was asking for, but I want to change. And God baptized me that night with the Holy Spirit, with the evidence of speaking in tongues, and it changed my life.
Wow.
Changed my life dramatically. So from there, I became a youth pastor for the Liberian community. I served that church 5 years, worked with kids in DePons and Brooklyn Center, raised a lot of leaders out of that. A couple of them are millionaires this day, which is, it's an honor to have done that, being a part of their lives. I went on to another ministry. I was, at that church, I was an outreach person, a small ministry, like 100 people. We raised that youth department from like 3 youth to 50.
Wow.
My wife teaches African hip hop aerobics. So we started, the kids started doing dance. So we went to different colleges across the state, UMD, different colleges during African American month. Transitioned from there, went to another ministry, started off in a parking lot as a parking lot attendant in a bigger church.
Wow.
Worked my way from there. At that time that I gave my life to Christ, though, he delivered me cold turkey from smoking and drinking and clubbing. I ended up getting a job with a Fortune 5 company, a Fortune 12 company at the time. At the same time I'm serving, getting promoted within there from entry level to a hiring manager, sales coach. At the same time serving at another ministry, started in a parking lot, worked my way up from that to leading that parking lot team, raised like 8 leaders to take over, went in as a guest service director, ran about a team of like 70 volunteers every Sunday for like 10 years. And then I went to another ministry in the inner city because I'm from Northside, Southside, and decided to give up corporate, come back to the city that I'm from, and bring back hope to our people. I feel like if I can do it, anybody can do it. Just like Kenny was talking about. So how him and I connected with Kenny here is I do a lot of volunteer work, and one of those is with Damascus Way with Pastor Jordan Nelson. He's a director of programming there, and he offered me an opportunity to come in to be a part of their Bible study on Tuesdays, and then also they want to offer me an opportunity to come in and speak on a Sunday. So I came in and I spoke. Didn't know Kenny, didn't even know he was there. He's back in the room. Afterwards, he approaches me and he's like, hey, bro, would you be interested in doing a Bible study? And my heart is, I just want to provide anything for my community. And I'm like, for sure. And he's like, I own a bike shop, coffee shop over north off of Glenwood. Just so happened, my biological father, my dad, I didn't grow up with him, but he's a pastor as well. So he actually served in the church right around the corner, like a half a block away from Kenny's shop for 30 years.
Wow.
So the same community my dad served for 30 years, I'm able to be a part of. And we do a Bible study together every Sunday 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? You're trying to get down. What's the address, Kenny?
1830 Glenwood Avenue.
Hey, come holler at your boy. We talking business. But that's kind of how we got involved, where we're doing a Bible study together. And I also have my own nonprofit ministry called Unite Twin Cities. So my heart is to connect and partner with organizations that's already bringing hope to our community, and come alongside them and support them in whatever that looks like, from training, evangelism, discipleship, leadership, life skills, job skills, resume building, sales coaching, whatever I can do to provide back to my community, the people that's already bringing hope. That's the hope for me. So Unite Twin Cities, we want to partner with those types of entities that's already doing that and come alongside that. Also, we have a partnership with Metro Transit. So every Saturday, I have a team that we go out and we serve the homeless, because a lot of homeless people travel from the transit centers across the city. That's right. So we target those transit centers and we go there and provide resources. And the hope is necessarily to try to preach on a soapbox. It's not the hope. The hope is to create relationships with people. And through those relationships, if we get the opportunity to share our testimony, if we get the opportunity to tell them about the love of Christ, which has changed our lives, that's really the hope. And once that happens, I believe change can happen. Because when purpose is discovered, a leader is born. And just like Kenny, when his purpose was discovered, he started to lead in areas. When I got my purpose and my calling and got on the right track, I've been running for 13 years now and serving my community the best way I know how. So long story short, that's how we kind of got in partnership, where come alongside Kenny and we kind of become brothers. Yeah. In a sense where we just want to provide the best hope we can for the north side, south side, for Minneapolis as a whole.
Wow. That's an incredible story. Both of you. Kind of going off of that, I want to talk to guys. So I do a lot of work with rehab and reentry guys, guys coming out of Teen Challenge, coming out of different rehab programs. What were your biggest, I know you made that decision, but what was the biggest either pull back to the life, or what was the biggest hurdle once you've made that decision to get there?
I think getting rid of old friends, or that's kind of a harsh way to put it, but not putting yourself around people that you used to know that are still living that lifestyle. Right, because they say birds of a feather flock together. Right. Some people will say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And so one of the things that's the most different around me now is the people, right? And so I'm blessed to be able to have a brother, Pastor Chris Bellinger, and just so many others that made a conscious decision to change their life, and a part of that is the people that you surround yourself with. Now, that's not to say that you want to forsake those people, or you don't care about those people or anything like that. It's just now is not their time, right?
Relationship changes, right? Like
relationship changes, yeah.
I'm going out with them every day anymore.
That's right.
I grab coffee or something, but
yeah,
it's not the same.
Yeah, and you want to speak a good word to them. You want to try to encourage them and motivate them and do different things like that. But ultimately, they got to make that change.
Yeah.
I actually do work for Hennepin County Corrections.
Really? Okay.
So every Friday I go in. I would love to have you come and talk to some of the guys.
Love to.
So every Friday, and you too, Kenny, when you got time, I know you're busy, man. We've been talking about it.
Yeah.
So every Friday I go into Hennepin County Corrections over north off of Dowling, and there's a program called Productive Day, and they work with felons or young men of color getting out of prison. Well, young men in general, let me put it that way, but there's a lot of, obviously, young men of color. So they come in that program and they teach them a trade in carpentry. So they get out of prison. They don't have, it's hard to get a job. It's hard to, rent places, and even the mindset when they get out. And one of the biggest things I teach, and which I needed to learn myself, is like Kenny was discussing, there's a difference between relatives and family. Relatives are your siblings, your mom, your dad, your brothers and sisters, so and people blood related. Families who you choose to do life with. Yeah. And family should be people that are trying to help you get better at life. To reach goals and not hate on you. And it's hurtful to say this, but it's reality. People in our community, it's like the crab effect, where you're always trying to pull people down. And sometimes because you are growing, because everything that's healthy is always growing, you outgrow the people around you. And that's the hope. Because if you are around the same people, like you said, birds of a feather flock together. If you go to the barber shop every day, you're going to get a haircut. It's inevitable. If you're around the wrong demographic of people, they're going to influence you more than you can influence them.
That's right.
So that was one of the biggest things I had to do. And the second Kenny touched base on was finding a mentor. So I have a mentor He's 70 years old, older Caucasian gentleman, and but he's done what I've am wanting to do at a higher, like extreme high level. But what a coach does, just like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, any Olympian,
Had to have a coach.
You have to have a coach to make you better.
That's right.
Right. So if they need coaches, how much more does somebody like myself, coming from a community that I come from, in the lifestyle that I came from, how much more do I need one? And a coach help you see what you can't see. They see further than you, and they help hold you accountable to the things that you say you're going to do. Yep.
That's right.
So I found a coach, somebody that really believes in me and is invested in me. You know, there's 3 different types of relationships. There's comrades, constituents, and confidants. And with confidants, you might find 3 in a lifetime. You know what I mean? And confidants are people that are for you. They're not for what you're for. They're not against what you're against, like a comrade or a constituent. A confidant is somebody that's for you. They're for Kenny. I want to see Kenny win no matter what he does. Yeah. And that's what we provide for one another as well. Being young, right. I'm 40, still young out here, right? But yeah, that's a lot in a minute, but that's what it did for me.
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, I recommend, I have multiple mentors, you know, a mentor in my field. So there's a financial advisor that mentors me, who's not even at my company, works at a different company, older black man, he's in his 60s, you know. Coaching. I also am a basketball coach.
Oh, wow.
You know, I have a mentor there. Even mental health wise, I would highly recommend, if you're running a business, have a therapist, have somebody you can go talk to. Yeah. Because, you know, I feel like every week I meet with her, it's just like it's incredible, the difference, where you're able to just talk openly to somebody about your real fears, your real everything, you know, because being a business owner is not easy. There's days you want to scream, there's days you want to quit, there's days you want to not do it. But having that person to talk to, if it's a mentor or a therapist or a coach, whatever it is, I can't imagine a business succeeding without something like that, honestly.
Yeah. And it's kind of taboo. Yeah. Having a therapist and speaking to somebody like that, kind of from the lifestyle that we came from, right? It's like, it's looked on as not being masculine. It's looked on as like not being manly, right? Having somebody that you're, you know, calling with all your problems and stuff like that. But I completely agree.
Yeah, every single person should have a therapist.
You know, it's better. What I teach and I try to hold myself accountable is that to get out of you what's in you, because the definition of insanity is, you know, thinking the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Yeah. So either journaling, having somebody to talk to about it, and like you're saying, you need to have a coach in every area: physically, mentally, emotionally, education, relationally, spiritually, financially. There should be somebody in your life that's further than you, and that's how people win. But a lot of people, they don't want to humble themselves to say, I need help.
Yep.
And that's why, you know, I mean, I go into scripture, but if you don't humble yourself, you know, it's very difficult to win at this thing we call life.
Yeah.
Got to get a coach, got to get a mentor, somebody further than you.
You have to. I don't think that, I would like to say that there's no business person, man or woman, that has ever owned a successful business that did not have a mentor, did not have somebody that had a deeper well that they could draw from. Whether it was, you know, like all of these different examples of advice and counseling, you know, I truly believe that.
I'm 100%. I mean, I get frustrated when I hear people self-made millionaire, self-made billionaire, whatever. It's like,
you
no.
ain't self nothing, man.
I was like, man, you built those roads your car drove on. There's so much intersection when it comes to business. I mean, business school, they tell you it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Facts.
You know, that's kind of what gets me frustrated when we talk about business community when it comes to black men. You know, when we reach out to other communities and say, hey, we want to be in these spaces, we want to have these jobs, right? Yeah. The answer is always, you're not qualified. Yeah. Right? You know, so I was actually adopted when I was 11. So my dad had to go back to Africa. So I got adopted by middle-class white parents, right? So I got to see a whole different world for a long time. And in the world, when you want a job, when you want a new job, you don't fill out a job application. Yeah. You know?
You call someone you know.
You call somebody. Yeah. You know, like I've never, like my dad, he's lost his job here and there, you know, and gotten new jobs or whatever. I've never seen him go on Indeed. I've never seen him go on LinkedIn, picks up a phone and calls somebody, you know? So when we're talking about opportunities, right? How do you know if he's better than any other candidates? There are no candidates. It's him. He has the job. They made a job for him.
That's right.
They made something didn't exist before.
That's right.
Right? And so, and who do you get those people for? Your friends, right?
Yeah.
The people you know, the people you connect with. And America's a segregated place. Most people, what you look like, most likely if you look around, everyone looks like you around you. Yeah. Just in general. So if all the wealth has been at one place, and the way to get the high-paying jobs is knowing somebody, and we don't know anybody, how are we supposed to get those jobs?
Well, I think that's a great point. But it goes back to the crab in a bucket mentality that you were talking about, right? You know, we have to create a space in America as African Americans, as blacks in America, minorities in America. We have to create a space where we understand that it's okay to trust, right? Because trust is like really that ultimate barrier that stops, you know, somebody that is an African American business owner from reaching down and picking up somebody that they know could be a great, you know, fit for this position for whatever reason that it is, and to allow them to be in that position, right? We have to trust in order to do that. And I think that that's something that we historically have not seen that people in the white business community do on a daily basis, right? Like you were just saying, your dad lost a job, you know, whether he got fired or quit or whatever, and he made a phone call and was able to get a job, right? And it's like, that's something that you don't hear about a lot. It probably happens more than we give it credit for, but it's just not something that, you know, I lost my job working at such and such. Let me call my uncle, cousin, friend, homie, whoever, and then the next day I got another job, right? You just don't hear about situations like that, right? And so that's something that we have to start doing that's going to help take us to another level.
My last 2 jobs actually have been through word of mouth, through friends and family. So in the last position I had, I was working for a ministry over South, inner city ministry, servicing the homeless and such, and that's my heart. And it was just a phone call. Hey, I have a young man here. I think he'd be good for your ministry. And I got in. Yeah. The job I got now, so now I work for a nonprofit called Involve MN, and it's we serve over 7,000 meals weekly to the homeless, to the encampments, to, you know, the inner city back alleys. Wow. Yeah. And it was basically me coming as a part of my own ministry, coming to ask them for resources so I can bring on the block for, you know, through my ministry on Saturdays, and through talking to the owner. He's actually the police chief for or the lieutenant for the 4th precinct, Grant Snyder. I went to go speak to him, and I went with the board member that I kind of stayed in touch with, and just to ask him for resources. Hey, is it okay? Can we get some meals so I can bring out to the bus stations and such? And then the next meeting I had with him, he offered me a position to come on board with him to create an initiative and he has a heart for encampments. He's been doing this for like 30 years, but to create an initiative for the North Side, South Side, inner city. They already have a team that services St. Paul encampments and such. So my job is to basically go and bend corners, you know, in the alleys, dark ways, Broadway and Lindale, and provide food for those out on the block. And also I service the young men that are in front of a certain liquor store on Broadway in Lindale. You know, I make sure they stay hydrated, and the hope is just to get real.
I didn't say it.
He said it. But the hope is for us, you know, Harriet Tubman was asked a question. They asked her, why do you keep going back and helping these people get to freedom over and over again when you've already tasted freedom? Why would you keep going back? And she told them, I know the way. And the thing about it is that when you know the way, I believe that you have a responsibility to help other people find the way.
That's right.
And it's just tragic in our demographic, in our community, that a lot of people want to save it or hoard what they get for themselves, and not understanding that the more you give, the more you get.
That's right.
You know, it's better to give than to receive. You know, and I just truly believe that. And so I've given up corporate. I've given up, my Chrysler 300. I'm going to work my way back up, though, you know what I mean? I've given up my Chrysler 300 with the 212s in the back, brand new, in a house in the burbs, to come back to the city that I'm born and raised in. I'm half native as well, grew up on the White Earth Reservation. My mom was a schizophrenic, alcoholic, drug addict, died at 42 from cirrhosis of the liver. You know what I mean? Again, my stepdad was a pimp from the 70s. So if I can make it out, if I can make it out, find purpose, get a position where I can make money and have a healthy family and put them in a place of safety and all that good stuff. If I can do it, coming from nothing at 27, how much more can another person do it? And the hope is to help people find purpose quicker than it took me. So if I'm talking to a 22-year-old, and that's the blessing, I get to go in the county every week to talk to these young adults. And what I tell them your 50-year-old self is counting on the 22-year-old self decisions you make today.
That's right.
The decisions you make today are, you are where you are because of the decisions you made. And obviously a lot of people don't change because of convenience. It's normally a crisis that they go through before they just sit down and say, all right, I need to go ahead and I need to make a difference, change in my life. And that's the hope, is that we live by wisdom and not by trial and error. But in our demographic, in our community, we wing everything. We wing marriage, we wing relationships, we wing raising children. I mean, you ask somebody, have you read a book?
Business.
We wing businesses. Yeah. We wing ministries. You get called and I got to go speak. Now you're begging people to come to your church and there's 4 people in your ministry. You know what I'm saying? Instead of taking the time and groom yourself and get mentors, get people that can come alongside you to support you. And that's what we have to do. We have to change the narrative in our community. And that's what we're trying to do. On the north side, on the south side, in the dark places. And I just believe this. I'm a pastor, right, at heart. You know what I mean? I believe as the world gets darker and darker, the purpose of the church is to get brighter and brighter. The scripture talks about the purpose of the church, the 5-fold ministries, apostles, preachers, teachers, evangelists, and prophets, is to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. In a church, your job is to raise up leaders. Your job is to make disciples. Right? The scripture says, go and make disciples and teach them what I taught you, meaning you're supposed to teach other people what you know.
That's right.
And you don't need to know the whole gist of it, at least what you know. You know what I mean? The fact that you're opening up opportunity for myself, and I just came in with my brother here to let me get out here and speak, that's huge. A lot of people are not offered opportunities, and a lot of people ain't trying to share the spotlight.
Yeah. But
that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring other people and get them involved, help them find their purpose, help them cultivate it, and then give them a platform to market it to humanity. Give them a space to say, all right, you can go ahead and do it. Let me move back. Let me step back, because that's what good leaders do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And allow people to do that. But unfortunately, a lot of people in our community haven't learned that. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to be the change we want to see.
Well, that's good stuff. Well, let's end it on that. Powerful words. Thank you, Kennis and Pastor Chris, for joining me.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
You guys are both doing amazing work. I look forward to working with you guys in the future, and definitely have you guys on again.
Yeah.
I mean, you both did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
I love you.
That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you want additional resources, please go on my website, richberkley.com. I have information on how to budget, how to pay off loans, how to get out of retirement, and much more. Also, if you'd like to be featured on the podcast, please reach out to me. I like to find interesting people, interesting businesses, and also people who give back to the community. If that's you, please go on my website. It has my phone number, email, and a link to schedule a meeting with me. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast.